thank you
Absolutely.
for coming. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll just start from there.
Excellent. My name is Lanie, but actually my birth name was Lania. And my birth name was from a song in the 60s, late 60s, and it's about a prostitute that, because of circumstances, ended up having to live that life. So I love saying that simply because that's what it may have started my destiny, but what God wanted it to be is something different. So I love just the story of redemption, because a lot of horrible things happened, but God truly restored and redeemed my life. So with all that, there's lots of hope. So don't be thrown off
by the name. As a parent, I believe that we should name our children something that will speak into their life the positive. Obviously, children are named to the negative, and whether your mom and dad knew that from the beginning, who knows? Might have just been a favorite song. But at the same time, many times in Scripture does God come in and change somebody's name, and then the blessings and the abundance come. So that's
meant
excellent.
For harm, God meant for good.
That's right.
Because I am not that Lania today, so it's pretty cool.
So you go by Lanie now.
I do go by Lanie.
Okay.
It's
Well, from Abram to Abraham's, it doesn't have to be a big change, right?
That's right. That's right.
Lania to Lanie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
A little bit about my story.
Let's hear your story.
All right.
Why is Lania important to what we're talking about today?
I think because of the people that I've been blessed to work with. So I got the privilege to walk alongside women who have lived a similar lifestyle as me. If I were to go back to the beginning, I was placed in foster care at 2 and lived in and out of foster care from 2 to 17. In between that, I lived with my mom and her different boyfriends and her lifestyle. I often say I'm a second generation traffic survivor, and by that I mean my mom was trafficked, and obviously because of those circumstances I too was. My abuse started at 3, my sexual abuse, then it turned into exploitation, and then eventually trafficking. So
What would be the difference between abuse and exploitation?
yeah. The abuse would mean, at least how I define it.
Sure, yeah,
would be things done sexually towards me without a gain towards a mass audience where it was used. So I guess it's still exploiting. The exploiting for me was when I would go to my mom's strip club. She worked in a strip club. Actually, my school bus dropped me off at the strip club. So I often,
Wow.
yeah, I would, because of the shame of it all, I would walk around to the back of the building so nobody on the bus knew that that's where I was being dropped off at. But I did my homework in the strip club. So that's probably where more the exploiting came, where I was asked to do things for other people's
Oh, okay.
gain.
Versus so abuse would just be somebody, for lack of a description, abusing, attacking you.
Correct.
Exploiting being they would ask you
Correct.
to do something.
Correct.
Okay.
So.
But still, as a minor, what's the
Oh,
difference, right?
Right.
Okay.
And I didn't define a difference. I thought that was my lot
Right.
in life. That I didn't know any different. I thought, to have started at 3 years old, and I didn't know any different. And I so badly wanted to be wanted. So for me, that meant doing what people asked me to do. Not that a 3-year-old or 10-year-old or 17-year-old really has a choice when somebody that big is doing some of those things. At the strip club, it was more of they were taking care of me, lots of attention from the guys. Mom would be working, and I would be back towards the back, and I knew no different, So yeah, that was the strip club. I would go to the different truck stops with my mom. It was a summer. I lived with my mom, and she went along with a guy named Wood and Nickel, which I thought was the coolest thing because I was a young girl and Wood and Nickel. But we actually would travel with him in his truck and then go to the different truck stops. I would stay in the truck while Mom would go work, and then I would just stay for hours and hours in the truck knowing darn skippy what was going on, but trying to play dumb.
And we talked a little bit in the past about your waiting time in the truck, and if I remember correctly, you would actually hide under the bunk. And maybe most people that are going to watch this don't understand that all a truck is two seats and a mattress behind the two seats.
Yeah,
And underneath that mattress is usually some kind of storage area.
exactly.
And really, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the whole moving condo.
Yeah.
Um,
I had learned because I was by myself, and a lot of the truck stops were kind of, for me, scary. And I'm by myself. He wasn't the most friendly of guys, so I knew some of the violent behavior that came with at least his group of people. So his truck, it had a overhang and just small enough that I had to go sideways to hide up underneath it, because I thought if I hid up underneath it, nobody would see me in the back of the cab. But so yeah, I would just hide there until my mom would come back. And
would you have considered him a pimp, or was he a boyfriend manipulator?
not a big difference between the two.
Right.
Definitely a gentleman who pimped my mom out. I mean, we'd go to the different truck stops, and I knew darn Skippy what was happening. And it wasn't with him, it was with the other men that she would be servicing, for lack of a better word. I learned quickly not to go into the showers at the truck stops.
What goes on at the showers?
Showers is where you get the extra money.
Okay.
So, I don't know if it's still the same, but it was unisex, so guys and girls could go into the showers. So Mom would meet up with the guys in the showers, and she taught me very early on to never go to showers. And the funny thing was, she was very protective, as much as she knew how to be, of me. I was never allowed to go to the bathroom by myself. I mean, there was a sense of, I don't want this happening to her. A lot of what happened, she had no idea. She placed me in situations she shouldn't have. But I honestly think if she'd known what was going on, there'd be some hell to pay.
Now, other than if she's working,
Right.
she would be leaving you in the truck. Where would these circumstances for you happen if you were hiding in the truck, or if your mom was working in the showers,
Right.
and you were inside or outside the truck, or did anything really happen to you at truck stops?
The truck stops, I was fortunate enough that nothing
Okay.
happened to me at the truck stop. Guys being dirty and provocative and inappropriate, absolutely. But when you've had people completely molest you and throw things in your mouth that shouldn't be in your mouth, at a truck stop when a guy fondles you or says dirty things, that doesn't seem as big of a deal. Now, where I am today, it's an absolutely big deal. If someone did that to my daughter, we'd have some issues.
Right. Yeah, my daughter too.
Yeah, but mind you, that I've grown up with that whole lifestyle, that was safe in a sick way, that, them just touching me or saying inappropriate things, or that was better than the other stuff.
On the scale of 1 to 10, that's a 2.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Exactly. So, and again, it's a lifestyle. It's what you become familiar with. I knew no different. Although I knew enough was different because I was shameful. Like, I was very good about putting a big smile on my face. Nobody would have a clue what was going on. I was the quiet girl at school because I didn't want anybody to know too much about me. So definitely the shame was there. So there was a part of me that had to have known it was wrong. But again, for me, I was with my mama. I was wanted. And in a sick way, I felt wanted by the guys. And so, in the work I do now, it's redefining what love is, because for so long, I would have a guy go, I want you, you're a good little girl, and then they do something sexual and go, I love you. So early on, my definition of love was a man being very inappropriate to me. So as I grew and came to know the Lord, understanding God's love for me was a little bit of a challenge. Actually, not a little bit of a challenge, a big challenge.
A lot of challenge.
Yeah. Love was not safe. Love, it's still a struggle today. It's not the definition, what was defined for me wasn't safe. So as I grew to know the Lord, understanding who He was, I had to really dig deep to go, if this is what love is, and this is what I had defined it, something doesn't line up.
Well, and I think both spiritually and on a secular level, that's the confusion I think that happens for a lot of, really more women than men. People always, the number one question or statement I get from women is, that couldn't happen to me, that wouldn't happen to me, I'd get away, I'd kill myself before I'd let it happen, any number of things. But I think that they're saying those statements based on their upbringing and description of love. You know, my father didn't treat me that way, therefore I would recognize
Right.
if somebody was treating me inappropriately, and I just wouldn't have that.
Right.
But I think that you're making a point that I very rarely hear from anybody other than a survivor, is that this was my norm, therefore that instinct to get out of it, while I felt the shame and the condemnation from it, I didn't really know that I was supposed to do something else as a child. Obviously, as you got older and older, you really realize what's going on. But in the early days, I'm going to say it's rather impossible, isn't it?
I mean, where would I to go?
Right.
You know, I could go back to foster care.
Which
but
I
again,
take it as worse.
You know, that's where my abuse started.
Right.
You know, my first memory of abuse was, back up, I, through my counseling, suffered with waking up with nightmares and feeling like I'm suffocating, like I'm literally dying. And just through counseling and whatnot, it stems back to an abuse from when I was younger, and it was a gentleman sticking his body part, you know, down my mouth. So that was in foster care, in a safe setting, where you're to belong. So it was early on that people that were supposed to protect me didn't protect me. So I didn't have a definition of what safe was. So when I was with my mom and that abuse happened, I was getting that love, getting that affection. And again, she had no idea. And I didn't want her to know, because if she knew, I was afraid I would get placed back in foster care.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it was if I speak up, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And so many of the women that I help, that's exactly it. It's, you can't get out, because where are you going to go? So
Right.
they're convinced that it's going up.
Cool. So when the proper thing is, the proper way to phrase this is, you truly have no choice.
You really don't.
There's no options.
No.
No
And
intelligent
nobody came
option,
in
no
to say, hey,
dream
there's
option.
another option. Oh, there is no dreams. I mean, for me, the dream was I was with my mom. You
Right.
know, I was wanted. I was in a place of belonging. But mind you, she'd been trafficked since probably 12 to 14. She had no idea what love was. So as best she knew how to love me,